Today we have a class on physical and psychological hazards of adolescence. We need to understand human development consisting of various stages, and one of the stage is adolescence. And adolescence is a very important state of human development. It is a stage where there is a transition from childhood to adulthood, which is marked by childish to adult responsibility. Most of the time, adolescents, children of this age, usually during the teenage, what we call it as a teenagers, that is 13 age to 19 years of age, these children have lot of issues. When we see, they undergo a lot of sufferings, pain, and it is very stressful for them, and this is because of their biological pain that they have, because there is a turmoil and upheaval of this state, and this state we need to understand more in detail. As from the point of psychological hazards, it is very important to understand in the human development, this stage has marked by a lot of sufferings, they have lot of troubles in their day to day life, and they are not no more a child, neither they are adults. So, in between this transition gives a lot of experiences which they undergo psychological repercussions. And this is the stage which there is an onset of puberty, because of which there is a change in their body, and there is a psychological makeup is changed in these children. As said Anna Freud, he said it is a identity formation. This is the stage where is a identity formation, there is a increased autonomy and heightened social awareness. So, this stage basically looks into, if you look into stages of development, these stages when you see, infancy starts up 0 to 2 years, early childhood 2 to 6 years, middle childhood 6 to 12 years. Now, we are talking about the adolescent stage, which is 12 to 18 years. In some textbooks it is mentioned 19 years, but you can take it as a 12 to 18 years. Different authors have given, but definitely it should be teenage, and early adulthood should be 18 to 13 years, and middle 30 to 60 years, late 60 plus. So, these are the categorically, if you see human development, it has been categorized based on their ages. So, now we are dealing with the hazards. What is hazard basically? This is a very potential threat to human life, and every stage of human development they have an hazard, and they have to successfully cross this hazard, because this hazard will hamper their quality of life, and it is a potential source of danger, and there is a injury during this period, either because of psychological injury or physical injury, or they may experience some illness, psychological illness, and because of this hazard they do not have a normal phase of growth. This will naturally get affected in their quality of life. So, why one should overcome the hazard? Now, hazards, they should the risk that they have. As the child pass through different stages, the child will have to experience the demands, needs of the society, and they have to meet the expectations of the parents, they have to meet the expectations of the society, and for which there is a risk and challenges that they have to undergo. And if you overcome the child, adolescents usually when they overcome their challenges, definitely their quality of life will improve, and there is a overall safety and happiness in their life. And we in this session we need to understand how these physical hazards and psychological hazards hamper their qualitative life. So, first we begin with adolescence. Adolescence is, as we said, this is marked by puberty. What is this puberty? Puberty is a specific phase of development that marks physical changes in the body leading to sexual maturity. Now, there is a change in the body, as you see when they were in childhood days, the body is not that remarkably seen, but as the child goes into the next stage of development called adolescence, there is a changes, sexual changes which gets matured, and there is a change in the body, and the body changes because there is a change in the hormones, and in girls there is a development of breast, and boys deepening in the boys. These changes in the body brings lot of psychological repercussion on the adolescents. they start thinking, what is this change that I am having in this my body. Sometimes some children they feel shame, some children they feel like avoiding and they feel very low. Some children, some adolescents they feel, they feel that I am something different, I am not no more a child. So these are some of the psychological makeup that they undergo. Now when you see adolescence, this is a stage where they are going from a childhood to adulthood. Okay, they go through puberty, experience growth spurts, there is a change in the hormones and there is a change in the sexual characteristics. And generally this adolescence is considered to be, most of the psychologists by saying that this stage is marked or characterized by stress and storm. And the teenagers, they navigate their way through high school, as they were passing through school, they develop new friendship, they have to discover new interest and they have to go through ups and downs of the teenage life. And there is a lot of demand from the school and there is a new friends when they go to college, they have to make new friends and they have to discover, every child they have their own potential and they have to discover their interest. And during this phase they will undergo a lot of psychological changes. Now when you see physical hazards, what is this physical hazard? Basically these hazards are pertaining to their physical makeup. I mean, you see, when they come into a stage called adolescence, they have to have some challenges which they have to successfully overcome, and one such is a illness. The illness may lead to death as well sometimes. So they have to cross over some of the illness like asthma. You see some adolescent, they will suffer with asthma and they will have a respiratory tract diseases, and sometimes they have a gastrointestinal issues, so musculoskeletal disorders, and they have some heart diseases. So the adolescent who successfully cross over these hazards, they lead a happy life. And sometimes this illness, they will make it to such a point that they have to suffer all through, and this illness may later go into a depression. Later they will have to suffer because of their illness. And physical deficit, many times we see this scoliosis where there is abnormal curvature of the spine. You see, you have seen children, they bend like this because of their poor body image, because they know that they are not normal as that of their peer adolescents. They feel low, their low self-esteem gets affected, and that is the reason why they try to avoid coming in social gatherings, and this is a hazard which they have to cross through. As I told you, we have to cross over the hazards, and how you are crossing over the hazard matters. Some people they take it positively, some adolescents they take it positively and they cross over and successfully, and they take the support of the therapist or they go to counselors and they resolve the issues. But some children not taking professional help, the hazards remain within themselves and they suffer, and to such an extent that they will have to have a psychological problems later in their life. Okay. So deviant maturity, this is one more hazard that they have to pass through this, and one such is this is the maturity in their levels. Some like girls especially, they have a menarche early, they may have a late maturity, or they have a problem with the gynec issues that will lead to them delaying in their menarche, attainment of menarche, and they feel low. Like their peer adolescents, they grow, but this deviant maturity, sometimes they will have the body size, the height, these all are not matured as per their age. And some of the hazards includes eating disorder, anorexia nervosa. This is one, they wanted to be thin, they don't want to look fatty, and they will have a willful starvations, because to get an appeal from their peer groups, they wanted to maintain the dieting, and they wanted to look themselves very beautiful. For that reason they will also change in their body, and this is a very hazardous, because they will not have enough nutrition, they do not have enough proteins, and subsequently they will have the health related issues. And anorexia bulimia, this is another disorder where they will go in their weight, and they look very odd, and especially girls, they feel they are very low, this low self esteem sets because of their body image. So, these disorders definitely would have the impact on their physical development as well as psychological impact is seen in the later part of the life. And also there is one more physical hazards that they pass through is the disease. Unknowingly, these children of adolescents, they engage in some of the sexual activities, and they will carry some of the sexual related diseases that would lead to some issues later in their part of the life. So, adolescents should be very careful to understand these diseases. So, naturally, when we are as a psychologist, sometimes we need to explain them what are these hazards and how to cross over these hazards. Sometimes unknowingly, because of peer group influence, they also will take up some of the challenging or very risky behaviors that would lead to such type of hazards. Now, coming to, as I told you, early maturity. When they have early maturity, they will usually have exhibit behaviors, physical development more advanced, mature compared to the peers. These children, especially girls, they have early maturity and they sometimes feel very low. I got menarche at an early age. Okay. And some children, they will have self confidence. In some adolescents, they have a self confidence, they have a leadership abilities, the difficulty in fitting with the peer groups, and you see some adolescent, they have a late maturity. See, even if there is a early maturity or late maturity, it has its own repercussions. Okay. So, these are all some of the challenges that they have to face. Now, when you see during adolescence, there is a sexual characteristics which remarkably seen in their body, especially when you see in boys, the appearance changes. There is a pubic hair, facial hair, okay, skin becomes coarser, less transparent, and glands, when you see apocrine glands in the armpit, muscles, they will increase in size and strength, and breast knot slightly known around the male mammary glands, nocturnal emission, ejaculation of semen during sleep. These changes, what is happening, which is biological based, as there is a change in their sexual maturity, the body undergoes hormonal changes which is seen on the outward, on the face or on the body. Now, these changes suddenly, once the child who was in a childhood days, who has now transformed or who have transitioned himself into adolescence, when he see there is a change in their body, he get panic. He see what is this is happening in my body, and they feel low sometimes. All of a sudden, the boys see there is a change in their voice, and they also see there is a nocturnal emissions, and these all will go into some type of anxiety in some of the adolescents. Now, we need to be very careful to make them understand how this is a natural process, as how the child pass through one stage to another stage, there is a change in their voice that needs an acceptance. So, for that we have to make them understand adolescents, especially when there are changes in their bodies. In girls, you see there are some wider and rounder pelvic bone development, and there is a change in the body, breast develops, and hair, pubic hair, except facial hairs, the same thing. Glands would also change in their girls, and muscle increase in size and strength. Okay, voice fuller and more melodious, and menarche, the first menstrual cycle. Thus, once the cycle starts, the girls start feeling panic. What is this is happening in my body? What is that is going on in my body? This makes them worry. This makes them, a type of feeling of low. Now, when you see that are all physiological hazards, now we see psychological hazards. There are n number of psychological hazards because of which the adolescents will have to face a lot of problems related to mental health. When you see the unfavorable self concept, the self concept, the self is me, my means it is me who I am I self worth. Concept is forming a concept of oneself. how I am look like. Am I handsome? Am I intelligent? Am I looking ugly? This self concept, if it is not in favor, others evaluate him. You are not good, you are not looking fair, you are fat, you are obese. When there is a negative comment given by other people, or when the comments that he gets through his friends, peer groups, or from parents or from society, then he will have a very unfavorable self concept. This unfavorable self concept will leads to low self esteem, and eventually you don't show enthusiasm in his life, and that may also lead to anxiety, and further it may go into depression. So, self, how he is perceiving himself, is he feeling that I am worth enough, am I worthful to do this task, the confidence that he gets about himself, and how he is, that is what we call me, my, how I am I worthy, if I am worthy, how I am. So, this evaluation of oneself is very important. During psychological hazard, when you see, adolescents will have this self concept, that is a stage when they start emerging their concept, they start looking themselves, how I am. How I am is very important, and this is being evaluated more than himself, that is evaluation is done by others. He takes the evaluation of others. Okay. So, naturally when the self concept is low, or if it is seen in unfavorable conditions, and he will show all sort of problems. The trajectory of this unfavorable self concept leads to the one where he will not show vocational career progress, he will not show his upliftment of himself in the life. This will have a problem with his own identity. And underachievement, this is another hazard. People, once if they fail in their exam or in their love or their loss, now this always have an impression, they carry the impression that I am low achiever. He will evaluate in a negative shade, and this has been proved number of times, because he was failing continuously, and he will get a concept that I am not as worthy as my peer group. Then naturally he will take himself other route. Okay. Now, next is lack of preparation for the changes. Now, adolescents mostly, as they are growing, actually they should be made prepared to by the parents. They need to prepare that we are now your child, you should say, the parents should tell them that now you are going to the next phase of development, where there is a challenges and there is a change in your body, you need to accept. So, the poor body image, the image that they carry has a long repercussions, and it has a long lasting effect on their self. So, if they are not prepared, if adolescent is not prepared, that your voice is going to be changed, you will have a moustache, you will have a beard, you will have a hairs, you have lot of responsibility. Now, you are not no more a child. Until then the father gives him the task, now he has more tasks to complete. Until then he was a child, mother used to protect him. Now, he is a change, now there is a change in his status. Now, the change is from a childhood, now he has entered into adolescence with lot of social responsibility. Now, if the preparedness is there, then there is a successfully the hazards will overcome. If preparedness is not there, and this lack of preparedness will lead again to psychological hazard, that further eventually leads to anxiety and depression. So, parents need to take care, or adolescents who are already had been seeing it should become a role model. At least they should tell him that what is going to happen in this particular stage of mind, or counselors when they go, if they have any changes in their body or preparation, they have to seek a professional help. They need to go to a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor, and make them understand what are the changes that are happening in their body, and how one has to need to adapt to the changing environment. And this is what is most of the time it is seems to be an hazard. Now, acceptance of changed body, as I told you, the body keeps changing. Now, there is a hormonal changes, there is a sweat started. Now, this I have seen many times, the change in the hormonal, because of which there is a change. The change bodies usually will have odor, smell. Now this sometimes we see there is a hormonal changes because of which they do not easily accept. Their non-acceptance of this, what is going on in my body, why is this smell, underarm smell. Now this is really worrying them, very much bothers them, and this they keep engaged with these thoughts, and this will again lead to a hazard, which is again they have to be made to understand. Now again deviation in sexual maturing, and as we already discussed, if there is a early maturation, late maturation has its own repercussions. Now there is a difference in boys and girls. If you see boys, the boys are more masculine and they want to look like masculinity, and if they are accepted by the peer group, their self esteem will grow. And if the girls are shorter and if they do not fit into the peer group, they feel low. So always there is a difference in their society expect thinness. Now this is given a value for thinness. So always the girls try to get approval from the parents, they want to get approval from the society. For that they do dieting, and this dieting would probably may lead to sometimes having a problem with the health risky. They have a problem with the intake of proteins, required intake of proteins may not be there, and that eventually leads to some other problem. They may go to anemia, and boys who are very tough, their difference in their composition of the bodies, and boys always like to take a challenging, and they look very young, they look very muscular, they will take a risky sports, and they want to conform themselves to the peer group. I am special, I have my own identity. So they strive at this point of time the identity, they work for their identity. When the identity gets challenged, when there is a risk for identity, again they will regress themselves. So some of the adolescents, research has shown that unhappiness at puberty, and when there is no acceptance, and if people do not accept this, they show late when they do not have this adolescence, when they do not accept, adulthood become very difficult, and they have to have a problem in their marital issues. If you see longitudinally, there is a problem in their adulthood if they do not accept. So the non-acceptance will have its psychological repercussions. And mental health, again as we were discussing, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and some children will have a conduct disorder, they start agitating, they show theft, and they have delinquency, they show delinquents because of poor parenting, there is no role model, or father themselves alcoholic, the child is reared in these conditions and he won't get a right model, and subsequently he will also follow the same traits, and it will eventually leads to such type of conduct disorder. So the social environment, home environment is very important at this point of time. At the point of adolescence, we should have a adolescents should have a right modeling, and for that parents need to be educated. This is a very important stage of a human development, and they should, because there are so many multiple factors that they are in. First of all, they are no more a child, neither they are no more a adult. This transition always keeps them trouble, and if they do not get right model, they may have a sidetracking, they may have all the type of issues that leads to antisocial element. This is the stage where children, if the adolescents, if we miss them, naturally they will go into such sort of disorders. And this behaviorally, if you see, these children, they have a lot of risk taking, they take risk, they wanted to prove themselves, I am something special. During the process of this risk taking, they will have all adventurous games, and this adventurous game sometimes may have, they may lead even to death, or we have seen many times there is a fracture in their bones, and this is an hazard that they will have to cross over, and because of their identity, they strive for identity, and during this process they may also have to face hazards. And some of the adolescents, research also shown that some of the adolescents, they show withdrawal when their low self esteem sets in. They don't mingle with the social group, and they will have to lead a life where there is a darkness in their life. This will again lead to psychopathology, and it may have some pathological issues, and they, when they are met with a peer group which is not really up to the social standard, when they come into the gang, it is called gang age, and when the gang is having all already, if they are having some antisocial elements, or if they have those tendencies, the child will pick up very fast, the adolescents will pick up, and he will try to follow the same thing. And subsequently what happens is the adolescents will also follow the same track, and this is how we see many times they lost their identity, and they are sometimes confused, because what they have been told in the childhood days, it should be like this. There is a definitely you have to follow this sort of life. They have a virtues, honesty, integrity. What they have been taught and what they are seeing is different. So, there is a contradicting views within themselves, and there is lot of confabulations, and there is a identity what they thought to have it, it is not been seen, and they see that what I am living and what I have been told is different. So, this confusion, there is a lot of confusion in this adolescence. The research also said these children will undergo a lot of storm and stress. Okay. Now, coming to other hazards that they have to pass through is the suicidal tendencies. This is one of the most important thing that we need to keep in mind when we are talking about adolescents. Why this suicide usually have, they prefer to die rather than to live, because there is lot of insult, because there is a lot of guilt feeling, because of which they choose to die, and they don't know this is the solution. This is not the only the solution, and instead of making them to work on, making them to look into the positive sides, they go more with the negative sides, and they have the tendencies, and these suicidal tendencies they have because of poor parenting, and sometimes suicidal may be because of the genetic issue, maybe genetic predisposition, and we also see there is some biochemical changes that happens, and psychosocial, basically when unemployment, when there is loss, when there is a divorce, when there is a loss family members, or when there is a low support system, and added to that their low self esteem. These multiple factors will lead to suicidal tendencies. So, we must be very careful, because they want to harm themselves, they want to show to the society that I was trying to do, but I could not do, and hence I am trying to terminate myself. Okay. So, this is one of the important issue that we need to understand. And risky behaviors, there are a lot of risky behaviors that they have, especially drug abuse. They will consume all this opiates, and they also consume drugs. Initially they go with a stimulation, later it will convert themselves into a behavioral pattern. They start to have more and more, and they become addiction to the drugs. And this drug addiction, again we can explain by various reasons. Maybe they want to please their peer group, or they may initially go with a sensation because they want to seek some sensation, or they may be because they want to forget the loss that they have made it, or they may be it is an explanation to the that failures, or he must have had a love but the love was broken. Now, we will show his reaction in the form of addiction to the drugs. So, we should be very careful. This is the stage where they will have issues related to the antisocial tendencies can also be seen during this time. Okay. So, they lost the loss of self control. Usually when they become addiction, to the drugs, they lost the control, control mechanism they lost, and they wanted to have more and more to get the effect, to the get of the effect of that induced that pleasantness, the stimulation they want to induce in themselves. For that reason they consume more and more, they increase their dosage, and subsequently leading to the risky behaviors of murder, all these things which happens. You see antisocial elements, it is because of this. The carry home message is, adolescence is a new birth for higher and more completely human traits are now born. This is said by Stanley Hall. If you understand, this is the stage where a new traits and characteristics were emerging, and for which the traits, it looks like now the human being, now the traits now are newly born. It looks like this is the stage where the adolescents start looking into, I am now no more the like child. Now from a perspective of others, it looks like these traits are emerging now. This is said by Stanley Hall. In a conclusion, we can say that this adolescence is a period which is very important to overcome the hazards, and hazards is very inevitable at every stage of development. The hazards are inevitable. It is the adolescents how they cross over, how they overcome this, for which we should make, as a psychologist, we must make them understand the stage is troublesome, and we have to prepare them well, and we have to make them educate, give them as much of psycho education, so that they can easily cross over physical hazards and as well as psychological hazards.